and friends from the Japanese community, you are welcome to this presentation, which is about investing in Ghana. I'll just start off briefly by saying that Africa has a 3 trillion investment opportunity, which means it's very huge. Africa is still evolving and changing. It's still the place to do business. About 170 billion of that goes into infrastructure every year. So all over the continent, the opportunities for infrastructure. In terms of agribusiness on the continent, that's about 1 trillion to agribusiness and the value chain. And then there's over $100 billion of investment in energy. Africa is one of the places where 600 million of its inhabitants do not have access to energy. And by 2050, 1 out of every 4 persons on earth will be an African. So just in your mind's eye, just look at everybody. 2050 is not that far. Many of us will live to 2050. So by 2050, 1 out of every 4 persons will be an African. And by 2035, Africa's consumer market will be 2.5 trillion United States dollars. So if you're a Japanese business and you are looking at this data and you look at Africa, where do you start from? So today we are inviting you to start from a country which has a visionary leader in the person of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And Mr. President, bear me out. Today, your intellectual property is gone. Your picture will be used, your quotes will be used, and even in our adverts, we're still using all your speeches, so it's gone. So we can't pay you for that, but your reward is in heaven. So this is a quote from our president at his inauguration. For many of us, it just looks like a quote when he said it. But then on reflecting on this and looking at the actions of government, it is now clear to all of us that Ghana is indeed open for business. And His Excellency the President is leading the charge. So I'll urge you to look for this quote. These are some of the efforts that he's been making. Now, for those of you who don't know Ghana, so as we say, Ghana is Africa for beginners. Who has said that before? To our Japanese friends, yes, Ghana is Africa for beginners. If you want to start from anywhere on the continent, you have to start from Ghana. We speak English and other languages. Our capital is Accra. Who has been to Accra before? Yes, a few of you. We want to see the rest of you following the president to Accra. Okay? And then we spend the Ghanaian cedi. So our land area is 238,000 plus. I think the Japanese land area is 378,000 square kilometers. And then our population is 33 million. The World Bank puts it at 34.4. Our GDP from 2024 is 73.23 billion. And trust me, it's growing very fast. And last year, we grew at 5.7 million on account of mining and mining activities. So this is our current inflation. If you are to invest in Ghana, any investor will look at what is currently happening, what's government doing. So our inflation is standing at 12.1%. Fitch, we've been upgraded to B-. You can see our total export earnings. And then our consumer confidence index is also up. And most importantly for you, our business confidence index is rising sharply. Means more of your compatriots are coming to invest in Ghana. So why invest in Ghana? Why Ghana? I said it's Africa for beginners, but why should I come to Ghana? One, we always pride ourselves in this. We're a beacon of democratic stability. Ghana has been a stable country for as long as I've been born, and it's been some time now. And it's still stable because we've had visionary leaders, and we continue to have the likes of President Mahama resetting and coming up with a 24-hour economy. So that is working. We also have a burgeoning middle class, and you have duty-free access. The Minister for Trade and Industry and the Foreign Affairs Minister have spoken about having access to the West African market, which is 400 million people plus, over 670 billion, and then the AFCFTA market, 1.3 billion, 3.4 trillion GDP across the continent. The interesting thing is that we have a skilled and effective workforce. If you look at the World Bank, last week, Thursday, they said in the next 10 years, Ghana is going to come up with 5 million workers, sending us to about 11.6 million people in the workforce. That is between the age of 16 and 64. That's our most productive part. And so we have a vibrant and easily trainable workforce. Our literacy level is very high. And then look at that part, the promising carbon market. It's over 800 million. We are the first in West Africa to have a carbon market. Over 800 million transactions happening in our carbon market. And what that means is what they call the ITMO, Internationally Transferred Mitigation Outcomes, where we can plant and then you can pay us and take some of that credit to offset your quote pollution to the rest of the world. We are also the first to have the green finance taxonomy, and that's ongoing, and the international financial reporting standards, all taking into account our carbon market. We are centrally located. I need not worry you. We've said we are the center of the earth. Kotoka is 6-8 hours away from many other destinations. We have a thermal port and seaport. And then we have abundant natural resources. And I want you to pay attention to this. We are the top largest gold producer in the world. And we have 4.7 million hectares of arable land, not agricultural land. In terms of agricultural land, we have over 13 million hectares. And so for agriculture, which is the next big thing in terms of agribusiness, we do have the land for that. We have a long coastal line, and we have other important natural resources like cocoa. We were averaging very high outputs. We went down a little bit, but the expectation is that we'll be back under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We are also business friendly. There is protection against expropriation. We have bilateral investment treaties with many countries of which your investment is protected. There's double taxation relief. And then there's the African investment protection under the protocol, the AFCFTA protocol on investment. So let's look at Ghana and Japan. What's the economic relations like? This is Ghana's imports from Japan 2024. That's 120 million, an 18.8 increment from 2023. And that's Ghana's export to Japan, 215 million. And it's largely cocoa and cocoa derivatives and cocoa products, and sometimes scrap metals. This is a foreign investment figure that we have from 1994 to 2025. Japanese foreign investment in Ghana stands at 152.1 million. And that's why we are here today, because that is not enough. We are of the belief that in as much as Toyota and Honda and Datsun, how many of you remember Datsun? 260C and 120Y. Can be found anywhere in Africa. There's a lot that Japanese business can do in Africa, and we are ready and open for that. So we are here to really engage with you on that one. Japan has one flight from Cairo to Tokyo, and that's just about the flight you have from Africa, a continent of 1.4 billion people. So the opportunities to really expand in terms of connecting between Japan and Ghana. And these are some of the Japanese businesses operating in Ghana. So you'll find the likes of Modec, which is more or less Michu, and then you have the vehicles, and you have an interesting one called Degas. So we'll talk about Degas ongoing and the work they are doing in the north, the impact on farmers, climate, agriculture, and providing financing, and in effect, for their returns, they are not taking money, they take products. So it's like sharecropping, which is a unique model of doing agriculture in Ghana. And these are some of government's key initiatives, ladies and gentlemen. The 24-hour economy. I mean, we can't go on an investment drive without talking about government's flagship program of 24-hour economy, which is one to transform our economy to make us self-sufficient. And the other aspect of it is an export-led program to make us an export hub. So we are going to be a manufacturing hub and an export hub within West Africa. And this is a broad vision of His Excellency, the President. These are the key pillars of production, transformation, supply chain efficiency, and human resource development. He has all these integrated it's like zero rated. It's not taxed by the government of Ghana. Whatever you make out of cocoa farm is not taxed. Then cocoa byproducts, agro-processing, cash crops, and livestock is 1% for the first 5 years. If you go into any of these, it's 1%. Manufacturing, the average standard tax rate in Ghana is 25%. But for manufacturing in regional capitals, outside of Accra and Tema, is 18.75%. So it's reduced for you. Now in manufacturing outside the regional capitals, it's 12.5% corporate income tax. This is how generous it is. In some other regions of Ghana, the 5 northern regions, the tax rate is 5% on everything else because we want to spread investment across. There's also 8% on horticulture and processing of agricultural raw materials. If you do that for non-traditional export, and my colleague from GEPA is here, your tax rate is 8%. There are locational incentives, and that's what you have there. If you're operating in Accra and Tema, you have a 20% after your 5-year concessionary rate period is over. We will just charge you a little 20%, while everybody else is paying 25%. And then in other regions, it's 15%. Then outside those other regional capitals, it's 10%. For construction, low-cost housing is 1%. And then 22% instead of 25% for those that are into hotels. The banking services, you have 20% CIT when you give loans to farming and leasing companies. And then there's 1% for 10 years for unit trust. Those who invest in our unit trust on the SEC. Then investors in these funds also have 1% final withholding tax. For venture capital, it's 1% on your profit and 5% on whatever investment that you recoup. There are strategic investment initiatives. Under the new Exemptions Act, any investment above $50 million means you can have your own incentives negotiations with the government of Ghana. And luckily for us, we have the Minister of Trade and the President here. So anybody with 50 million, right after the meeting, you just wait outside the door and start the negotiations. Then there's the custom duty as well, which is some of the things that you import, they are zero rated. And so when it's zero rated, you don't pay anything. But there are also ones that if you need a lot more, you negotiate, and it's all subject to the Ghana, the Exemptions Act. I'm glad they mentioned that Zoom Lion is here. Incomes from waste processing is 1% for the first 7 years. I'm sure your business is more than 7 years. So you may be paying the right one now. But for the first 7 years, waste processing is 1%. And we can make this available to you. Then there's the Free Zones Enterprise, which is mainly export trade. We invite, for those investors that are looking into market efficiency, we invite you to come produce in our country and export. So it's a 10-year tax holiday, and you are also exempted from all the custom duties. After the 10 years, if you are going to export, you just be an exporter of a free zone, you do 15%, but there's still the 1%. Your dividends are still exempted. And then there are also the indirect tax exemption, the VAT reliefs on the zero-rated items, the ECOWAS trade liberalization, which makes it free for people to produce and export within the ECOWAS region, and that's how come we are inviting you to come to Ghana. And for our Japanese friends, this is very important, the automotive development policy, which gives you 0% for 3 years for the semi-knockdown vehicles, and then 0% for 10 years for the complete knockdown. So you see videos of Toyota and Honda. This is what they are running on. There's the capital allowance, which is free for you as well. And these are guarantees. Ghana is one of the few places, I'll be wrapping up soon. Ghana is one of the few places where your investment is guaranteed in the Constitution. Article 36(4) of our Constitution says, the government of Ghana shall encourage foreign direct investment. That is complete protection for it. There's protection against discrimination, expropriation. If government even has to take your property, government will pay fair and prompt price for that. So all of this, it's important for you to look at investing. We don't discriminate. We have insolvency law. We have dispute resolution mechanisms. We are signatories to the New York Convention, to the ACID, and so your investment in Ghana is well protected. We have a commercial court for dealing with disputes, and then there are also the non-financial incentives. At GIPC, what do we have? There's aftercare and investor grievance. We want to be able to resolve your issues before they degenerate into full-time dispute where you go to arbitration. And then we also have research and investment data. Research and data has turned out to be one of the most important services required by Japanese investors. There's also the Ghana International Trade Commission. Permit me 20 seconds. If you are manufacturing in Ghana, remember that in 2016, President Mahama passed this law to protect your industry. So anti-dumping, people would not just come and dump products to make your business irrelevant. There's a whole International Trade Commission. It's just Ghana, Botswana, and South Africa that has this protection for manufacturers in Ghana, in Africa. Then we ask you to unlock opportunities with us. This is who we are. We are a government agency responsible for the facilitation and promotion of investment. We provide you with all these services. We'll make these available with us. Any business with a foreign participation is required to register with us because we must keep register of same and produce it to the president and government for decision making. I think it's going. So you go to the office of register of companies in Ghana. You need a shareholder, 2 minimum directors, 1 secretary, 1 auditor, and an office location to register. You must satisfy the minimum capital requirement. Register with us. We also have a 24-hour premium service. I will not leave without saying that. We can do all your registrations in 24 hours for you. We understand the urgency with businesses. These are other regulators, but I have one special announcement for you before we go. 2026, you have to come to Ghana for the Ghana International Investment Summit. We are inviting businesses from all over the world to come to our country to see the opportunities for themselves. Like we said, thank you very much, and Ghana is open for business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maji. I cannot say anything else than to say that the presentation will be made available to you so that you can digest and then you can ask questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a critical stage. Since assuming office on the 7th of January, this is the first official visit of His Excellency the President to Japan and also to attend TCAD 9. And like the Minister for Foreign Affairs said, the President says Ghana is open for business, and therefore wherever he is, he also wants to meet the business community to tell them the good news he has. We are talking of the President who is a hands-on person and who is poised to achieve results. And so, Mr. Maji, you were saying that we are not paying anything for always using the President's name. I want to tell you that the President is the Chief Marketing Officer of Ghana. And so, as the Chief Marketing Officer, he's giving us the express permission to always use whatever he says. Whatever he says is the Bible for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, without taking much of your time, shall we please invite to His Excellency the podium, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh, please be seated. Sorry. Thank you very much, and good morning. Good morning to all of you. Let me thank Simon for that very comprehensive presentation of the opportunities that our country has to offer. And I wonder whether after Simon is necessary for me to even speak. We marketed our country, quite efficiently than anybody can be able to do. But let me just say, the question is, why would you want to invest in a country like Ghana? And not only to do with the economic opportunities, but that Ghana is a stable, democratic, business-friendly gateway to West Africa and the continent. And like you said, we have a growing consumer market with improving macroeconomic fundamentals, clear reforms to lower the cost of doing business, and abundant opportunities for technology transfer. And the thing is, what does Ghana have to offer? Strategic geographical location. Ghana is a country through which the meridian and the equator intersect. The two intersect in Ghana's territory, just a few kilometers off our shore. And it's also the host country for the African Continental Free Trade Area. You all have heard the landmark protocol that was signed by African countries. So far, almost 50 African countries have signed that allow us to export duty-free, tariff-free into each other's markets. Increasing numbers of products are being registered. And once you register your product and it meets all the standards, you can export duty-free and tariff-free into each other's markets. And as you were told, the sub-regional market, which is West Africa, is 400 million people. Ghana is 33 million people. And the continental market is 1.4 billion people. And so with the vehicle of the African Continental Free Trade Area, you potentially can export into 1.4 billion market. Simon said it, we are re-establishing macro stability and growth momentum of the economy. Inflation rose to a high of almost 23% in 2024 and is currently down to 13.7%. And we expect that by the end of the year to hit single digit. And it's also, our cedi has stabilized. For those of you who know the history of the Ghanaian cedi, it's been one of the most volatile currencies in Africa. And a few years back, we were said to be the worst performing currency. I'm happy to announce that this year, Ghana cedi has been the best performing currency in the world. And as Simon said, we've been upgraded from junk status to B- with a stable outlook. And I'm certain that in the next review, we're going to be upgraded again. We're open for business, and Simon and co are busy at work reviewing the Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act. Some barriers were put to foreign investment. You had to prove that you had brought in a certain amount of money to be classified as a foreign investor. In the reviewed Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act, we're removing those minimal capital investments. This will enable any investor, however little money you have, $100,000, $50,000, to be able to come in and set up a business in Ghana. Again, we have a track record for hosting Japanese companies. And as you saw from the list there by Madame Jetro, Executive Vice President, the number of Japanese companies that are operating in Ghana is significant, and we're expecting that that should expand. From Simon's presentation, he told you about $152 million has been invested over the last few decades. We believe that there is growth room for improvement and expanded investment from Japan. We're moving just not only from overseas development assistance, but we're moving to trade and investment. And the private sector will be that engine of growth. And so trade between our two countries grew by over 24% from 2020 to 2024. That is quite a significant jump. Priority sectors, Simon mentioned, Japan has a comparative advantage when it comes to automobile manufacturing. And like I said, using the opportunity to be able to export into not only our sub-region but into Africa, then Ghana becomes a good place for local assembly of automotive products. And already we have Japanese companies that are based in Ghana and assembling for the local market and also for exporting to the sub-region. Brands like Toyota, the Honda is there, and several other ones. He mentioned the area of agribusiness and agro-processing. Of course, that is one of the main focus in terms of economic transformation. Ghana has a comparative advantage when it comes to agriculture and agribusiness in terms of available arable lands, in terms of sunshine, in terms of water. We have the world's largest man-made lake. It's one of the things we were taught in school, the Volta Lake. And our first president had quite a good dream about what he wanted to do with that lake. And we're going to capture that in what I talk about when I talk about the Volta Economic Corridor. We have millions of hectares of land that border that huge lake. And the water can be used to bring about 2 million hectares of land under irrigation. But also we intend to establish industrial parks, so that we can process agri-products. We can invest in textile manufacture for export into the EU markets, into the American markets, and other places. Fortunately, we got slapped with only a 15% tariff by President Trump. And so Ghana is still competitive when it comes to exporting into the American market. And so, like I said, the economic corridor would include manufacturing and industrial parks. And we already have 2 industrial parks. We have the Free Zones Enclave. We have the Tema Industrial Park. But there's a new one that has come up, which is the Dawa Industrial Park. And already the anchor tenants have built and are producing, and several other companies are setting up for producing in Ghana and exporting into the African and foreign markets. One of the major areas, growth areas for Ghana is in energy. And Ghana has a comparative advantage when it comes to energy production. Our first president was the first to establish the Akosombo Hydroelectric Dam, which is a 1,020 megawatt hydroelectric power plant. We have subsequently had other hydro plants, including the Pong hydroelectric power plant and then the Bui hydroelectric power plant. So there are 3 of them. But after a while, we realized that these hydro plants were not enough to supply the energy needs of Ghana. And so we went into thermal production. The good news is that once we went into thermal production, side by side, we discovered huge quantities of oil and gas. And we took a decision to utilize the gas for power production. And so we have a gas to power policy. And so our thermal plants are being run on gas. We're bringing new gas fields into operation. And because we're members of the West African Power Pool, our energy transmission systems are interconnected with our neighboring countries. And so any excess of power we're able to produce, we can evacuate and sell to our neighboring countries because we have a comparative advantage when it comes to power. Our cost is much lower than they can produce it themselves using fuel oils. Ghana has 3 important ports. One is the old Tema ports. There are 2 ports in Tema, if for most people don't know that. We have the old port that was built by President Kwame Nkrumah, which is a smaller one. And recently we built a much bigger port, which is the MPS port. So there are 2 ports in Tema. And then we also have the port in Takrady. Currently, the port in Tema, the MPS port, is one of the best performing ports in Africa. And it is able to accommodate the largest cargo ships that exist in this world. This year, about 3 of those cargo ships, the largest in the world, have berthed in Tema to lighten because we have a deep draft. And so they're able to come into Tema and lighten the cargo before they move to our sister ports in Nigeria, Apapa, Lomé, and Cote d'Ivoire. We also have an important area, which is digital economy and skills. And like Simon said, Ghana has a very young population, English speaking, and they're very smart and quick to upskill in any areas: robotics, AI, fintechs. The fintech sector is one of the fastest growing in Ghana than in any other African country. And so GIPC sold itself. It says it will fast track your approvals. And so any investor who wants to come, your first port of call is the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. And once you go, they would lead you and fill out all your company registration forms, get you your tax identification number and everything. And Simon said in 24 hours. And so I'm holding him to that promise. Any of you who comes and he goes beyond 24 hours, just report him to me. I talked already of the Volta Economic Corridor. And so we're looking for anchor businesses to take advantage of that. We also have the opportunities for mitigating your risk by doing PPPs. That is, government will partner with you to invest if you are interested. We currently do not provide sovereign guarantees in terms of borrowing, but our guarantees are that your business, will be protected and will not be expropriated. We also have blended finance for huge projects, and so that is available. We have local partnership, and as you were told, some of our big businessmen are here, and so setting up joint ventures with Ghanaian businessmen who know the terrain and would be something that is useful. And so I invite you to pilot with that. Select any of the areas. If it's automotive, if it's agro-processing, it is investment in green transition. You can join us and partner to be able to do that. You can use Ghana, as I said, as your West African hub and locate your regional office in Ghana or your production line in Ghana for export into the sub-region. You can also invest with our universities and vocational institutions to establish training centers that will be tied to whatever investments that you want to do. Ghana is a land of opportunity, and many nationals from all over the world are investing in Ghana. As I said, we wish to, because of the discipline, quality standards, and industrial wisdom that Japanese businessmen have, we wish to encourage Japanese businessmen to look towards Ghana. Africa is the next frontier for investment. Most parts of the world are saturated when it comes to investment. Africa is opening up, is growing, and is the place that Japan should be looking at. And so let us marry Japanese precision with Ghanaian potential and create a win-win situation for ourselves. Before I take my seat, my minister's advisors, CEO of GIPC, Ghana Export Promotion Agency, and our ambassadors will all be in this room after we finish this opening session, and they'll be happy to sit with you and discuss further what the opportunities are in Ghana. My copyright, Ghana is open for business, is here, and I don't charge for it anyway, so we're open for business 24 hours a day, and at this decisive moment in our history, we're working towards the economic transformation of Ghana. Our nation is embracing a bold vision, one that harnesses innovation, industrialization, and regional integration to unlock the full potential of our people and our resources. Our vision is anchored in our 10 billion big push, and the $10 billion big push is a program to improve the infrastructure of our country, especially in the road sector, in the industrial sector, agro-processing space, and all that. So we're investing $2 billion a year in infrastructure development. And already you've heard about the 24-hour economic policy, where we'll give incentives to businesses that are prepared to invest and to run more than the 8-hour working cycle. And then we are looking to accelerate industrial growth, ensure food security, enhance supply chain and value addition, and position Ghana as the manufacturing and export hub of Africa. And so on this note, I am happy to declare the Presidential Investment Forum on the sidelines of TICAD 9 duly open. I thank you. Long live Ghana and Japan partnership.
Shall we do it better?